Hi, welcome to the Get Ready with God podcast. My name is Julie Taylor, and I'm your host, and I'm not God. Obviously, I'm not an expert. I'm not even a scriptorian. I'm literally just a girl sitting in front of a microphone, hoping God is real. The Get Ready with God podcast is the daily devotional podcast to help you see divinity in every day. I got a question on Instagram that I really want to talk about, and I think that we've talked about here or there, but I want a dedicated episode to it, and that is how to support someone going through a faith deconstruction, a faith crisis, a faith expansion, whatever label you're going to put on it. I say I'm not an expert, but I might be as close to an expert in this one as it gets, having left faith multiple times myself and having the majority of my friends and family members have gone through some version of this. I have a lot of friends who sit on the opposite side of the aisle as me, and we've been able to maintain very close, intimate friendships regardless. So I think I can speak to this from many different perspectives. I can't speak to this directly from a parental perspective. My kids are young, and obviously every situation is different. So one thing that always makes me concerned about sharing my story of faith is that it will be weaponized. There's a lot of people in my faith community who like to use stories like mine against their loved ones, saying, well, she just chose to come back. Why can't you? And I don't like my story weaponized, and I actually don't think that my path is for everyone, and every situation is extremely unique. And that's my disclaimers, but I would like to speak to this because it is something really, really close to my heart. How to support someone, including yourself. The first thing that I want to say is that your worth to God is not attached to your faith status. So if God is not attaching someone's worth to that, why should you? I think that's the first thing to remember, that human worth, the worth of the person, is completely detached and unaffected from the choices that they are making in general, but also the choices they are making spiritually, faithfully, religiously. They're not attached, babe. And God doesn't see it that way. And so why should you? Are you better than God? Are you more powerful than God? Do you have better discernment than God? I don't think so. Nope, I don't think so. So that's just something to keep in mind from like a judgmental criticism standpoint, but also like a comforting standpoint. When someone you love changes their faith or their religious status, a lot of things happen. One, you feel threatened in yours. I don't care how strong you are, you feel threatened because they are someone you love and trust, and they are choosing differently than you're choosing. And when it's as something as deep as religious choice, beliefs, faith, and values, it rocks you a little bit. It is normal to respond with some defensiveness, and it can also cause your own personal spiral. And so if that's happening to you, it's very normal, but recognize it as such. You might be feeling defensive and insecure yourself, and that's actually yours to process. That's actually yours to deal with, and not the person who is changing. So it's actually not their job to help you navigate that discomfort, that insecurity, and that defensiveness. But give yourself some grace, because that popping up is normal. But seek out help and support yourself to navigate those things. Two, you'll often feel really heartbroken and sad, and there's some grief involved. And some of that, depending on your beliefs and what you've been taught, comes from a concern for their soul, truly. And that's why I try to not be dismissive. It was really apparent to me when I left faith that some of the extreme ways, some people's reactions felt really extreme to me, but I had to understand that based on their belief system, they believed that they would not be with me after death. And that's like some pretty high stakes for people who love me. And that's not a belief system that I subscribe to, but I had to understand that like that's what they truly believe. And so when that's what you believe, the stakes are high, the pain is real, and they're scared and they're grieving. And so that gave me some compassion on this other side. But for you, if you're feeling those feelings of fear and grief and sadness, I want to go back to number one and say their worth has not changed in God's eyes, so why should it change in yours? And maybe use that to help comfort your fear and your grief and your sadness, and really try to build your own faith around learning and really believing that God loves them and does not attach his love and their worth to this choice that they're making. Number two, kind of along the lines of number one, View them as a whole human. There's this thing that happens when people leave faith where people suddenly put them in this category of being bad people. It's really sad. And I think I first saw this when I had a very close family member leave faith, and the rest of my family was kind of talking about it in a way that was like so devastated. And I was kind of confused because I was like, this man is like the best father I've ever seen, the best partner. He's showing up at work. Like he's a very good human doing really, really great things. And to suddenly view him as bad or view him as a tragedy was really, really wrong and disappointing to me. And I was really kind of confused by it, by people's reaction, because I just thought he's making like this faith choice, but he's an ethical, wonderful, loving, productive member of society and member of his family. And I was just a little bit confused why we were putting like such a disproportionate focus on this choice he was making while he was still a really wonderful person that we should all be proud to call a family member. And so I think another really important part of this is to see the person as a whole person and not disproportionately assign tragedy or sadness or disappointment over this one aspect of them. See the good, speak the good, let them know how much you love them and how great you think they are. But first you need to see it and then you need to speak it. And the last thing that I'll say, because these are short episodes, you just have to let go and let God. And I make a joke out of that phrase a lot, but I actually really like it. I started saying it ironically and then I grew to really love it. But what I mean is if you're in a faith that like really promotes like missionary work and conversion, you can kind of take it as your responsibility to personally convert this person back to their beliefs and their faith. It might feel like the right thing to do is to constantly send them quotes or scriptures or share your own faith with them constantly. And I think that usually leads to more distance and isolation than it does connection or faith promoting. We can get really critical and we can really get dismissive. A lot of people going through this are going through a complete shift of their baseline foundation and values and worldview and perspective and relationships and programming. And it's extremely disorienting. It's extremely scary. It's extremely painful. And there's a lot of grief involved. And so to have that dismissed by others is really painful. Trust God and give them the space. This is a path that they need to go on. And I don't know where it will end because none of us do. They don't even know. When I started really going through some faith stuff, my brother told me, and I don't even remember the direct quote, but it was something about how this is really, really painful and really scary and really terrible. But I promise you, no matter where you end up on the other side, you'll be better off for having done this. Like paradigm shifts are painful and not everyone engages in them. But no matter where you land on the other side of it, you're going to be better than before. Trust that they're on this path and that God has them. Your job is to keep loving them. You don't have to change yourself. You can still show up as yourself. You can still live the way that you want to live. You can still share the way that you want to share. I don't think you need to hide yourself or your beliefs from them. The best person I've ever seen do this is my husband, where he stayed very strong in his beliefs and never apologized for that, but he was able to do that while simultaneously allowing me to do what I needed to do. And I do think that it's because of his faith that he was able to do that. I don't want to speak for him, but I think when you really, really trust God, it is easier to let people do what they need to do and easier to believe that they will end up where they're going to end up and that it's going to be okay. And it's actually not your job to micromanage and control the outcome and force your faith on them. I think another key component, I know I said that was the last thing, but all of this has to be done from a baseline of equality, of not thinking that you're better than. You can't be condescending. It's easy to think truly that you know better on both sides. The person who's staying in and the person who's leaving, they both think they're right. They both think that they are choosing the better path. That's why they're choosing it. They both think that they know more than the other one. They both think that they're better than the other one. And you have to really fight that urge. That is ego. That is insecurity. That is discomfort, wanting to be satiated and calmed. So fight that feeling, whether it's you going through it yourself or if you're trying to support someone else going through it. I hope that maybe this can be a helpful guide, a quick guide to support yourself and others going through faith changes. Anyways, I know this is a really painful, complicated process for everyone involved. So added compassion, added love, and a desire to expand your heart and capacity for love and acceptance, I think is key. But I know you're up to the task. I know you can do it, and God will guide you through it. I love you so much. I'm with you in this journey. It's a lot, but you're going to be better for it. Trust that, believe that. Love you so much. Bye.